Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Isaiah chapters 16 through 19.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We sure are.
That is what we're doing. And in fact, it's mostly going to be a bunch of prophecies.
Ooh, prophecies that haven't come true?
I guess we'll see.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we will find out. There's really not much to say, honestly. It's a good amount of prophecies.
I have something to say.
Oh, you do?
I have the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version of the Bible.
We also have the Robert Alter version of the Hebrew Bible, a translation with commentary.
And we have Erdman's commentary on the Bible, as well as the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews, and
the New King James
Version.
Aha.
Yes. The New King James Version. We
also have the Oxford Companion to the Bible.
That one doesn't really
matter, useless.
Yeah, it is
completely useless.
You know, I saw like some Harvard professor say like he's usually the one working on appendices and like pretty much companions to other books, and he's like, is anybody even reading these things, or is all of my work just in vain? So
well, hopefully he does better work than that.
Yeah. It really sucks because these are some big names too. Bruce Metzger and Michael Coogan. Yeah, those are big names in the field.
I guess you could read it as an alternative to reading the Bible, but you still would miss a lot.
Yeah, you would. It'd be much harder to remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, anything to say about chapter 16 before we get into it?
We're spinning.
Oh, that's right. We have the wheel today. It's the start of the month.
Yeah.
Which means we have a t-shirt giveaway.
A t-shirt giveaway for all of our $10 patrons. You get entered into this random giveaway.
Yep, first Sunday of every month. So, I don't know. Chris, how about you?
Spin that wheel!
I think I hear it spinning. Is it spinning right next to my head? There it is, spinning.
That's Tyler.
Tyler! You
Congratulations,
win a shirt.
Tyler.
Congratulations.
Round of applause. Woo! Thank you. See, we could have just done that.
Yeah. Well, there you go, Tyler. You're going to get a shirt of your choice. Lawrence will take care of it.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. Yeah. But you're going to get a shirt.
Yeah, you are.
And for anyone else that wants to potentially win a shirt just like that, have their name on that wheel, that nice wheel, the high-quality wheel.
The best wheel in the world.
Yeah. Then you know exactly where to go.
Yep.
To our Patreon.
Yep, to our Patreon.
Yeah. All right.
You can give us money.
All right, so how about we hop into chapter 16?
Yeah, let's do it. Chapter 16. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion.
Yeah, so send a lamb to the ruler of the land. The Hebrew is very cryptic. This translation is based on the guess that the ruler of the land is the governing power in Judah, and that the fugitive Moabites are obliged to turn to the Judites for help. The lamb would be some kind of tribute, but whatever historical circumstance may be invoked here is highly uncertain. Verses 3 through 4 appear to be an injunction to take in Moabite refugees.
Okay. For it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday. Hide the outcasts, bewray not him that wandereth. Let mine outcasts dwell with thee, Moab. Be thou a covert to them from the face of the spoiler. For the extortioner is at an end, the spoiler ceaseth, the oppressors are consumed out of the land. And in mercy shall the throne be established, and he shall sit it in truth in the tabernacle of David. judging and seeking judgment, and hasting righteousness.
And that, that would mark the end of the first stanza, I guess. Kind of broken off there.
Yes. So returning to these Moabites who were the subject of chapter 15, right?
Yeah. Yeah, both 15 and 16 are oracles against the Moabites, which, of course, we read a good bit about them when we were reading through the Deuteronomistic history.
Yeah, we did.
They were at war with Israel a couple times.
Or Judah.
Also, yes.
Yeah. Yep. So war is happening. It's not great. We have heard the pride of Moab. He is very proud, even of his haughtiness and his pride and his wrath, but his lies shall not be so.
So, we have heard of Moab's pride. Although this prophecy is linked with the previous one by the subject of Moab, the theme now is exulting over Moab's fall, with the keening for her disaster in verses 9 through 11, perhaps sarcastic. Then on the phrase, not so are his lies, the Hebrew noun here is problematic, and many different solutions have been proposed. And that's honestly that's where he ends it off.
But it's really more of a, those Moabites, they think they're so great, but they're not that good. Therefore shall Moab howl for Moab. Everyone shall howl. For the foundations of Kir-Hareseth shall ye mourn.
Yeah,
Surely they are stricken. I'm assuming this is a city.
Yeah, definitely. So hold on. What was the
verse 7?
I have for the raisin cakes of Kir-Hareseth.
For the foundations of Kir-Hareseth.
I have raisin cakes.
Is there a note?
Yes, there is. Though some see these as an element in the cult, the mention in the next verse of the vineyards signifies where grapes for fine wine were grown and suggests that the raisin cakes, a different use of grapes, were simply part of the good times before disaster overtook Moab. So yeah, raisin cakes.
Yeah, something sweet, I guess.
Yeah, the pastries, the delicacies, right? For the fields of Heshbon languish, and the vine of Sibmah. The lords of the heathen have broken down the principal plants thereof. They are come even unto Jazer. They wandered through the wilderness. Her branches are stretched out. They are gone over the sea. Therefore, I will bewail you with the weeping of Jazer, the vine of Sibmah. I will water thee with my tears, O Heshbon and Elialah. For the shouting for thy summer fruits and for thy harvest is fallen. Yep. So they shout out, but their gods don't answer because their gods are false gods.
Well,
right.
So
they're just
the word
deaf.
a shout has fallen away. I think this is the right verse that I'm.
Verse 9.
Yeah, it's the right one that I'm looking at. Say, I drench you with my tears, Heshbon and Elialah, for over your fig and grain harvest, a shout has fallen away. And apparently a shout there. This is an exclamation of joy.
Oh. But it's fallen away.
Yeah.
So there's no more joy coming from these areas.
Nope.
Oh, that's horrible.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like that one time when the sparkles had their color taken away.
It's like that one
Rainbow
time.
Bright.
It's like that one time Shawn Michaels lost his smile.
It's like that one time.
You guys don't get that reference.
In Egypt when Joseph predicted a famine and how had them prepare for it. But obviously Isaiah.
Joseph was ready for it.
Yeah, Isaiah's not going to be like, hey, Moabites, I'm delivering this prophecy and it talks about you going into this famine.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
Yeah, no, he's not going to help him out.
They're enemies.
Yeah. You know, a holy man probably would help them out of concern for their fellow human beings.
Yeah, that's a
Whoops.
tough call there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't.
Maybe. I mean, if they're like a highly ethnocentric holy man, like all of the ones in the entire book here, then I guess they wouldn't. And gladness is taken away, and joy out of the plentiful field. And in the vineyards there shall be no singing, neither shall there be shouting. The treaders shall tread out no wine in their presses. I have made their vintage shouting to cease. So that joyful shouting.
Yeah.
Wherefore my bowels shall sound like a harp for Moab, and mine inward parts for Kir Haresh.
So the inward stuff, we talked about that just being like the soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that before. But the translation here is, therefore my heart moans like a lyre for Moab, my inward self for Kir Haresh.
This wording is terrible.
It is, I agree.
It
makes it sound like he farts like a harp.
It makes it sound like their situation is so terrible that even that fart sounds like a harp to them, right?
That'd be pretty bad, yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad.
Or alternatively,
You have a reasonable translation that's not the KJV.
well, there is that, but I also was going to point that out that alternatively, it could just be a really good fart.
Oh, yeah. An award winner. And it
Sounds
shows
identical to a harp.
Yeah.
Do I have
Oh, yeah, I can do.
Is that the
Yeah.
right one?
Yeah.
That was the
That was
magic-
the spooky one.
was me.
Yeah.
No. And it shall come to pass when it is seen that Moab is weary on the high place, that he shall not come to his sanctuary to pray.
So there is a quick note here.
That he shall come to his sanctuary to pray, but he shall not prevail.
Okay.
So,
So the unavailing on the high place. And and it shall happen that Moab will be seen unavailing on the high place, and he will come to his sanctuary and achieve nothing. The Moabites will go to their site of worship, a hilltop altar and sanctuary, to entreat their gods for help, but it will be unavailing, which makes sense with what we just read. But it's also interesting to me that they just use the same word. I'm assuming it's the same word that they use for high place here.
well,
I mean,
it is literally a high place. It's an altar
Yeah.
on a hill.
It is.
Yeah. This is the word that the Lord, that kind of carries with it the implication that prior to this period, when the Moabites would go to their high places and pray to their gods, they would get results.
Yes.
So the implication is that this is an abnormal state of affairs for the Moabites. So isn't that Yahweh either admitting, one, that he is acting on behalf of the Moabites during certain periods of time, which would be contrary to his character throughout, or two, that the Moabite gods are perfectly legitimate and grant, the results from prayers just as much as Yahweh does? Because people cried out to Yahweh and he didn't answer plenty of times during during the whole slavery and being thrown into exile and,
Yeah, but of course from the context, a lot of it you can just read obviously it was their own fault because they didn't worship properly. They didn't get rid of the high places.
Oh, yeah, but here...
But of course there were plenty of times that God did listen to specific people.
Right, like Abraham.
Yeah.
But,
Abraham, David, some of the other prophets.
Which an all-knowing being wouldn't have to do. That's like trying to reason with an ant for you and me.
Well,
but
yeah.
Also, but here it does seem like they're granting that Moabite prayer to Moabite gods is successful on a regular basis.
Then it just will come to pass that there won't be. Unless there's more to this. So yeah, let's finish up the chapter,
All
and
right.
we'll see.
This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning Moab since that time. But now the Lord hath spoken, saying, within 3 years, as the years of a hireling, and the glory of Moab shall be contemned with all that great multitude, and the remnant shall be very small and feeble.
Okay, so very small and feeble. Okay, that makes sense here. So the translation I have, in 3 years, like the years of a hired worker, Moab glory shall be debased, despite all the great crowd and what is left, the smallest bit of no account. The note here on that, one might infer that there were contractual arrangements, in all likelihood, for indentured servants that fixed the term of service for 3 years. Just as the hired worker awaits the end of his period of service and the recompense and liberation that comes at the end, the Israelites await the promised destruction of Moab. I'm sure they are.
Hey, is Moab still around?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, man, they did it.
Tell us about the Moabites,
I got
Lawrence.
very little.
Yeah, they're not here today?
No.
Oh,
Not to
well,
my knowledge.
then I guess this prophecy came true. It might not have worked out that way, though.
Quite the way that they're...
And, given, the large amount of tribes and civilizations that were out there, you could probably make a prophecy that any given one of them would disappear over time. I mean,
well, yeah, everything is going to...
I prophesy in 1900 that Austria-Hungary won't exist anymore. Oh, look at that. The Ottomans aren't around,
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, that ended.
Oh, my God.
Where am I going to get my Janissaries from?
Or my Ottomans.
And, of course, the USSR, right? You could be like...
Wait, what about the motherland?
Oh, they are no more, comrade. They are
Что?
all gone. Что?
Yeah, long before your time. At least 3 years.
So, that is accurate. On the note here on, this is the word that the Lord spoke concerning Moab in time past. Because this assumes that there's something new being added, right?
Mm.
So the reference seems to be an earlier prophecy about the destruction of Moab, perhaps the one recorded in chapter 15 that was not fulfilled. In a kind of temporal revision, the prophet now says that the destruction will come in another 3 years. So probably written after the fact, kind of a little bit of they're kind of fixing something here.
Yeah.
Later edition.
Hey, you said that they were going to be gone.
But instead, let's say you said something else.
Yeah. Like, no, I didn't say that. I said they'd be gone in 3 years.
From now.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily him himself.
Didn't you read the scroll? Hold on a second here. Yeah, right there.
Not even necessarily the Isaiah himself, but
but
some writer
yeah.
who was like, this doesn't quite happen this way. How about I fix that?
Mhm.
Like, people already think he's a great prophet, so why not? Either way,
This
that's
is how he stays accurate.
Now let's remember, if even one of these prophecies is false,
Yep.
that means that Isaiah is a false prophet.
That's why
and
they
should
have to be right.
and should be put to death under the law from the Torah, right?
that is a thing, yeah.
Yeah. So they better all come true. I'm expecting them all to be within the biblical narrative, right?
Well, I suppose we'll see. I mean, a lot of this stuff was also taken to mean something else. One of the issues that I'm going to discuss in like my next, big project video that shouldn't be too long, is the fact that some of the Assyrian or the oracles against Assyria, some of those were applied to the Seleucids during the Maccabean revolts.
Yeah.
So
Like they were borrowing from previous slander.
they were borrowing from the previous stuff they already had, and were just like, well, this applies here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they create common insult sayings, basically.
And not even just it wouldn't be insult sayings necessarily. It would be like Like if there's a prophecy about this enemy coming down and destroying you, and then there's a different enemy at a later point in time that does do that to you, you're like, well, obviously this was talking about the stuff coming up now.
Right. It's like how Netanyahu was saying that Iran are the Ammonites.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I
think
didn't
it was
see that.
Iran. It might have been another. It was one of those countries that they don't like. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And he referred to them as Ammonites.
Of course.
Or Amalekites.
Of fucking course. Of course he did.
Yeah, that happens. So, yeah, you can interpret
Stuff like that, yeah.
whatever. But that's really slimy.
Yes. And they some people call that like a prophecy fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever there is like you've seen all those people who use the evangelicals that use Revelation to try to figure out when the end of the world is going to be, right?
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of those. Yeah. We've seen so many failed end of the world predictions. That's because they don't understand this stuff. They don't actually understand the book that they're reading. So when they read something in Revelation, for example, and take it out of context and mix it up with some other stuff in the Bible, then yes, they can come to some sort of end date, some sort of seemingly random, because it's pretty arbitrary, this arbitrary end date, and then they're always wrong.
Well, some of them also believe the world is less than 10,000 years old.
Also, yes.
And so we can't trust their mathematical ability.
Reasoning.
Well, it's like there are trees that are older than that.
Yeah, that's accurate.
You can tell because when you cut them
Methuselah
down.
tree.
Yeah.
That's the name of it, right? The oldest tree? The Methuselah tree?
I think so.
Yeah.
You can cut them down and see the rings and see how old they're older than that.
He can do scans now. They don't have to cut them down.
Yeah, but if you wanted to, you as an independent person
would have to track those down, and
You'd
they're like protected.
Cut down the oldest trees in the world.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
We are not endorsing this.
No, we're not endorsing it. Not at all.
Because it's like really illegal.
I'm just saying that it's possible that someone could do that.
Yeah.
And very clearly have evidence that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. How about we hop into the next chapter then?
Yeah, and speaking of prophecies being reinterpreted, we're talking about Damascus in this chapter, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of people who would say that the current situation in Syria is just a result of this biblical prophecy, right?
You know what? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to read and see what the Bible has to say about the current situation in the world.
Yeah.
What?
Well, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, share it around.
I prophesy that you will drop a like and share it around.
I prophesy that you won't.
See, now this way, both of us are right.
Yeah, one of us is a true prophet.
Yeah. I guess we'll see where this goes.
I think that either option is fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess. Why don't you get into
What a good
it?
prophet
Yes,
I
I
am.
will. All right. So chapter 17, an oracle concerning Damascus. Behold!
Behold!
Damascus will cease to be a city and will become a heap of ruins.
Wow.
The cities of Aror are deserted. They will be for flocks, which will lie down, and none will make them afraid.
Become a place for flocks that bed down there with none troubling them. So, like, the wild animals move in to the ruins.
Oh, I bet this is about Chernobyl.
Oh, no. Watch
Or
it.
any
be like,
abandoned place. Any abandoned place
No,
ever.
it's got to be Chernobyl.
it's got to be Syria. So,
It does have to be Syria, yeah.
yeah.
Not
But,
great there still right now.
yeah, no, Syria's in really bad shape. They're not having a good time.
The fortress will disappear from Ephraim, and before
Israel.
Samaria was the capital of Israel, I think Ephraim was.
They
I think
became
that was it.
allies in 736
What-
BC to resist the Assyrian threat.
Okay, I think. Actually, hold on. Was that Ephraim? No, maybe that was something else. I'm probably getting mixed. Probably getting it mixed up.
No, Syria and Israel had become allies, or I guess.
Tensions have changed.
I forget
a
the name of the
lot.
old capital. Okay, either way, whatever.
Damascus, the capital of Syria, fell to the Assyrians in
Yeah.
732 BC.
Yeah, that was the capital of Aram,
Yeah.
Damascus. Either way. Yeah, the fortress will disappear from Ephraim and the kingdom from Damascus. And the remnant of Syria will be like the glory of the children of Israel, declares the Lord of hosts.
So this is the remnant of Aram altars.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it would.
And in that day, the glory of Jacob will be brought low, and the fat of his flesh will grow lean.
So some interpreters try to make this verse more logical by rendering kavod as body. It says, Jacob's glory shall turn gaunt. Body. A sense that it probably doesn't have, or weight. Again, a dubious sense. Even if the related adjective kaved does mean heavy, poetic expression need not have this kind of neat consistency. So,
I mean, yeah, there have been so many different points of poetry in the Bible that some of them did have, that kind of consistency, right? Then others didn't. They were pretty bouncy.
yeah.
And it shall be as when the reaper gathers standing grain, and his arm harvests the ears, and as when one gleans the ears of grain in the valley of Rephaim. And Rephaim, that was
The place name means
Palestinians, right? Was it the Palestinians or the Sea Peoples? Rephaim?
I'm not sure, but it says here, the Valley of Rephaim. One infers from the context that this was a place that produced meager crops.
Phoenicians. Thank you, Justin.
It may be relevant that the place name means Ghost Valley.
Tirzah. Okay. See. Thank you, chat, for helping me out there. My memory is just fucking garbage.
Yes, the capital of Israel before Samaria was Tirzah, and before that it was Penuel, and Shechem was the first capital.
Okay, man, I'm very, very bad with this.
We gotta learn our.
That's why I take a lot of notes when I
ancient
read
history timelines.
our ancient capitals.
Yeah.
Oh man, you had to learn your state capitals.
Now you
and
gotta learn
even
our
just
ancient
your
ones.
states when you were younger. Now you gotta learn all of your ancient factions, because they might be city states. They might not even be that. And yeah, I learn all those names because they change them all the time. It's just like, oh, a guy died here, so we're gonna name it a new name now.
That
They
does
do
happen.
that so often.
Gleanings will be left in it, as when an olive tree is beaten. 2 or 3 berries in the top of the highest bough. 4 or 5 on the branches of a fruit tree, declares the Lord God of Israel.
So they're gonna lose almost everything. There'll be a couple things sticking around. Couple.
Yeah, not much, but that's the whole remnant thing, right?
2 or 3, 4 or 5.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing.
In that day, man will look to his maker, and his eyes will look on the Holy One of Israel.
What leads him to turn away from the sites of idolatry to God is, as verse 8 makes clear, the
We haven't gotten to
destruction-
verse 8.
Well, this is a comment on verse 7.
Okay.
The destruction that will be wreaked on Israel.
Okay.
Yes.
He will not look to the altars, the work of his hands, and he will not look on what his own fingers have made, either the Asherim or the altars of incense. And of course, that was the big thing in Kings, right? The Asherah poles and the high places, these idolatrous altars. They are just the craftings of human hands. They're not real. They can't speak to you.
They can't walk around. They
Exactly.
can't answer prayers for Moabites.
Exactly. But apparently it was in the last chapter. We do have kind of a hint of it at some point working.
Which, of course, we know wouldn't work because none of these things exist. Right? But they might have thought that there were real foreign gods.
Yeah, I mean, no, here's the thing, though, right? Because before Israel had become, before we could call Israelite religion Jewish, before it was Judaism, it was henotheistic. So they did believe in many gods, and just one, Yahweh, was the highest above all of them. So yeah,
Like Zeus or Saturn.
Yeah.
the thing is, those other gods
Jupiter,
were
maybe.
Yeah, but those other gods were worshipped as well.
Sure.
The difference between polytheism and henotheism,
okay.
is that polytheism, all gods are worshipped, but in henotheism, only one is worthy of worship. The other ones just exist. They're there.
Well, I will note that in many polytheistic religions, you do have communities which are more centrally focused on one god than another.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there are going to be patron gods, for
And that's
example.
kind of like the predecessor to henotheism in general. Having a patron god of a city or something would be like, yeah, we mostly pray to that one god.
Yeah, that was around, yeah.
Leads to the next step, I think.
Either way, there was a big evolution of that.
Yep.
Anyways, in that day, their strong cities will be like the deserted places of the wooded heights and the hilltops, which they deserted because of the children of Israel, and there will be desolation. So, I'm guessing this is a reference to when Israelites would have come in, destroyed altars during wars and battles and stuff, and now they have nothing left there.
Yeah, abandoned sites of Horesh and Amir that were abandoned because of the Israelites.
Yeah. For you have forgotten the God of your salvation and have not remembered the rock of your refuge.
Can you smell what Yahweh's
Oh.
cooking?
I can, yes.
Yeah.
It's meat.
It's burnt meat, frankincense, and myrrh.
It's nice. Really get a good whiff of that.
Yep.
Therefore, though you plant pleasant plants and sow the vine branch of a stranger, some
Okay.
foreign vine branches.
This is completely different. All right. So, therefore, did you plant your saplings for vegetal gods, sow the slip of an alien god? It says,
Wow.
vegetal gods. The Hebrew seems to say saplings of the pleasant ones, but Naaman is probably a designation for Tammuz, the god who dies annually and is reborn each spring. Blenkinsop is a bit too specific and too Greek in translating this as Adonis.
Oh, yeah, that identification happens so much.
Mm-hmm. So there's translations of vegetal gods. There's translations of Adonis, but these
Because Adonis, if I remember properly, like when he died, he just regrew as a flower, didn't he? That was Adonis, right? Or was that somebody else?
I don't
Nope.
know.
Yeah.
It does say about the rock, besides just saying that it's an epithet for God. The hardness of rock forms a nice antithesis to the saplings and slips planted as a part of the cult of nature gods.
Yeah, the translation is just so different.
Yeah, completely different. What does the KJV say? The one true version.
Of course, yeah.
What verse is
You can't
this?
forget about the one true version.
Verse 10.
Yes, it is in fact verse 10.
Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shall set it with strange slips.
Okay.
So I guess the implication is towards these gods, these nature gods.
Though you make them grow on the day that you plant them, and make them blossom in the morning that you sow, yet the harvest will flee away in a day of grief and incurable pain. Oh, shit.
So it says, instead of yet the harvest, it says, but the roots become a heap on the ill-starred day and grievous pain.
How many
Okay,
roots?
so even though something is working,
Mhm.
it's all going to come to an end
So
pretty much abruptly.
yeah, it's like a hidden disease in the roots of the plant. It says about this ill-starred day.
Yeah.
Of the 4 Hebrew words of this verse, the only one whose certain meaning is bayom, on the day.
Great.
Whose meaning is certain, not certain meaning, right? But yeah, that's the only word in the sentence that we know
You're
what it
certain
means.
about. Okay. I mean, that's not new for biblical
Yeah.
literature. The thunder of many peoples. They thunder like the thundering of the sea. The roar of nations. They roar like the roaring of mighty waters. I mean, I suppose I get the imagery there. You know, why they're paralleling waters and sea. That makes perfect sense, right?
This marks a new prophecy.
But the thundering of the sea, that's just an interesting word to use there.
Mhm.
I mean, I get what they're going for. You know, the crashing waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the beginning of a new prophecy concerning not Damascus, but the many nations that have despoiled Israel. The identification of a specific historical event has proved elusive, although some scholars are inclined to attribute this prophecy to Isaiah. One reason to be skeptical about the attribution is that the poetry is in no way on the level of the greater poetry of the book's first chapters. Both the simile of the roar of the seas and the wind-driven chaff are biblical cliches, and the verbatim repetition of the second half of verse 12 in the first half of verse 13 seems inert. Eerdmans says 17:12 through 14 are directed against Assyria. An obvious context would be the disaster before the walls of Jerusalem in Isaiah 37, when the army was destroyed overnight. The image of Assyria as waters flooding Judah also appears in Isaiah 8:7 through 8. Water was a symbol of chaos and the breakdown of the created order, challenging the kingship of the Lord. See 19, verse 5.
We'll get there.
Yep. So, scholars who deny the authenticity of the disaster story consider these verses an addition made in the time of Josiah, late 17th century BC,
okay.
when the overthrow of Assyria was imminent. So we have 2 options to pick here. Either Alter's explanation that it's a general thing about the enemies of the people, or this interpretation, which says that it is specifically about the Assyrians.
Well, let's keep reading, and we'll
Yeah.
see if there's anything to say about it.
Yeah.
The nations roar like the roaring of many waters, but he will rebuke them, and they will flee far away, chased like chaff on the mountains before the wind, and whirling dust before the storm. At evening time, behold!
Behold.
Terror! Before morning, they are no more. This is the portion of those who loot us, and the lot of those who plunder us.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally see this as it could be both. Like I could see an argument for both, right?
Mhm.
But I honestly think this might have to do more specifically with the Assyrians.
Yeah, it seems specific.
Yeah, and like it doesn't have any very specific like allusions to things, but there are hints in it that would make sense. Like when they're talking about many nations coming in. So if we're talking about the history of the ancient Near East and how many powers there were always multiple, but it was a little more divided up during the Assyrian Empire than it was during the Babylonians, because the Babylonians took over a lot more than Assyria did. So
yeah, and like Eerdmans notes, there is textual context where you would say that these roaring waters coming in have previously referenced the Assyrians.
sure.
And so when they use the same metaphor, it probably, in a borderline case like this, it gives some credence towards one explanation, right? But like, it sounds like a specific event. Like they are surrounded by all these enemies who come to them at night, but they find themselves disappointed, of course, because they can't best God's chosen people.
As is tradition.
Yeah. And that doesn't describe every single like battle and event that happens in the Bible. There's a lot of them that happen during the daytime. They go into a lot of detail about battles at different points.
Yeah.
And
I mean, sometimes more than others. Because some are just passed over.
yeah. Some really cool ones are just passed over, like when Abraham was waging war. It's basically like, yeah, he brought in people. There was a battle of 5 armies, and he won.
Yeah. And then sometimes we get, the very vivid descriptions, like when the Ammonites were blinded, right? I think that was the Ammonites.
Or like when the Israelites were going up against that group that was on the hill, and they used a flanking maneuver. Yeah. I think that was Israel. It might have been Judah. It might have been pre-Judah, Israel split.
Wasn't that with David?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was with David.
Yeah. Either way, that is actually the end of the chapter.
And do you hear something?
You know what I do?
And
I do hear something.
I hear it coming. It's
from the sky.
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Wow, Jesus Christ, look what you've done. You've taken away Reuben.
Again.
My co-host, he will never return. He will always, he will forever be gone.
This time for sure.
Yeah, he's not coming back. Rest in peace, Reuben.
There you go.
Ye will surely be missed. And I suppose I am here to take over the show and what
Forever.
have you. So not gonna be the best thing with just me. I'm not very entertaining. I can
I can try to help,
I
but
suppose I can
he
do the
sucks.
worm. And that's a fact, by the way. Oh, holy shit.
I have returned.
You've returned. You're here.
I have returned with prophecy.
Well, tell us all about it.
A great kingdom will fall. Their people will suffer.
Oh, no.
Maybe not a kingdom at this point, maybe more of a nation state. But, you get my meaning. Ooh,
I do.
this is what God told me, and once it comes true, I'll be guaranteed professional prophet 101. Yep.
You should teach classes.
I should teach prophecy classes. All you got to do is get raptured and get told what's going to happen.
You heard the man.
Yep. Really difficult stuff here.
Yeah.
But anyways, why don't I hop into chapter 18? By the way, we do have a donation drive. If you would like to donate to Baal right here, our golden calf and Israel's gods. Once we hit $666, we're going to be buying an e-meter, seeing who has the most clear thetan level.
And just so you know, we're at $69.
69. Yep.
That's not a joke. We are in fact at $69.
We're at $69.
Yeah.
So if you would like to donate towards that drive, once we hit the goal, we're going to be taking on Scientology, and it's going down.
It's gonna be fun too.
Oh, yeah. Anyways.
I do have some notes here. So this is concerning not only 18 and 19, but also 20. These are oracles against Egypt, which played a significant part in the politics of Judah during the latter part of Isaiah's life. When Hezekiah became king, Egypt had regained its former strength under the 25th dynasty of Ethiopian pharaohs, and they fomented revolt among Assyria's vassal states. The Philistines rebelled in 713 BCE, and Assyrian records show that Moab, Edom, and Judah were invited to join them. Egypt promised aid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Egypt.
Which would be a problem later.
Oh.
Yeah. Take that.
Fucking Egypt.
Thanks, Egypt.
Well, this chapter's not that long. Chapter 18, only 7 verses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ruben, you've been blessed again.
Yeah, I know. The next one that you have to read is 25 verses.
That's okay.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. So, woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia.
So, land of the whirring wings.
Yeah, what is this place?
Nubia. Yeah, so it's Kush, Ethiopia. Yeah. Along the upper reaches of the Nile in equatorial Africa was known for its abundance of insects, a phenomenon attested to by Herodotus. The vessels of reeds mentioned in the next verse are equally part of the poem's evocation of the realia of the kingdom along the Nile. Yeah, that would make sense.
That sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, saying, Go, ye swift messengers, to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled.
So there's some commentary here. So go, swift messengers. See,
remember, Upper Egypt is actually South Egypt.
Yeah.
Makes
because
no sense.
Well,
but,
no,
hey.
it does because that's the way the Nile flows.
Yeah, but
Like it goes from upper to lower.
yeah, it makes sense if you're very familiar with Egyptian
6,000
geography.
to 3,000 years ago. Yeah.
Either way, that's how it is. So, anyways, and the thing is, the Egyptians weren't a very seafaring people. They had boats, obviously, and they used them, but they weren't like great sailors or anything. That's not like a thing they were known for. All their stuff was right there.
Yeah.
So either way, so go swift messengers. The messengers, Mal Akim, are evidently a different group from the envoys, Tsirim, of the preceding line. It is not clear where the Nubian envoys are heading, and different attempts have been made to line up this passage with a particular moment in the political history of the late 8th century BCE. The swift messengers appear to be sent out from the kingdom of Judah to announce to the Nubians the disaster about to overtake them.
All ye inhabitants of the world. And
Also, one other thing here. To a rangy and smooth-skinned nation. That's the translation that I have for the second part of for like the after the Go Swift Messengers part.
Weird.
Yeah, can you tell me your translation for it?
Go, swift messengers, to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto.
Okay.
A nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled.
Okay. So yeah, a rangy and smooth-skinned nation. The Hebrew word translated as rangy is literally pulled out or elongated, not the usual word for tall. The term represented as smooth-skinned derives from the verbal stem that means either polished or plucked. This would be an exoticizing way to describe the tall Africans with little body hair, even though their blackness is unmentioned.
Wow.
What a commentary!
What a commentary.
It's not even racist.
Still, what a commentary.
All ye inhabitants of the world, and dwellers on the earth, see ye, when he lifteth up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. For so the Lord said unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon herbs, and like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. For afore the harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks, and take away and cut down the branches. They shall be left together unto the fowls of the mountains, and to the beasts of the earth. And the fowls shall summer upon them, and the beasts of the earth shall winter upon them.
Whenever yours says fowls, mine says vultures. Or altars says vultures.
But it's a return to this previous thing which popped up in another chapter where they talked about the wild animals coming into the previously established area.
Yeah.
Right? Once it's destroyed, you know.
And I do have a little bit of commentary here from Erdman's.
Yeah, I got one more verse, but
yeah, this is literally about. The only note here about this next verse that you're about to read is that it's probably a later edition. That's all there is.
Yeah, there is a marking in the KJV.
Okay. So 18:1 through 6 was prompted by the embassy received from the Ethiopian pharaoh. Yeah, whirring wings could refer to the insects of Ethiopia, or in the light of a similar Arabic word, it could read as winged ships, that is, sailing ships. I know that there were some ships that had kind of like a wing-like thing, but I don't know when they were from.
But we're not talking about Final Fantasy style airships.
No, we are not. So sorry to disappoint you there.
No.
The embassy, perhaps inviting Hezekiah to join the revolt, has traveled by papyrus boat, inviting speculation that they traveled by sea from the Nile Delta and approached Jerusalem from the coast. Isaiah's response is to warn of imminent judgment on Egypt. Swift angels, not messengers, apparently, according to Erdman's.
Well, we know that angels and messengers have been used interchangeably.
Yeah. Although the Hebrew can be either, are sent to the land of many rivers. The translation, tall and smooth nation, he already noted that. But the angels comment, so I get, what they're going for, but this seems like the scene itself seems like it doesn't actually require an angel.
No.
Like, not even a little bit.
It could easily be a human messenger.
Yeah.
Anyways, in that time shall the present be brought unto the Lord of hosts of a people scattered and peeled, and from a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden under foot, whose land the rivers have spoiled, to the place of the name of the Lord of hosts, the Mount Zion.
Good old Mount Zion.
So, I can imagine.
Because that is where he put his name, right?
Yeah. Well, I can imagine some apologists saying, "Oh, look at the black Jews in Israel today. That's just a sign that this prophecy is coming true."
Yeah, even though it says nothing about that.
No, it says nothing.
Could see that happening.
Yep, could definitely see that happening. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about specific historical events. Right?
Yeah. Like an actual, like, discussion that took place between powers.
Now, do we have independent
Sources for this?
sources?
I don't think so.
No.
Not to my knowledge. There might be. You know, I mean, there we have independent sources for a lot of stuff that's in the Bible.
But we can ascertain from this that at least the people of Israel and Judah knew about the Nubians and maybe traded with them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the end of the chapter. I can see why they would think that the last bit is added on there, given that it's a repetition.
Yeah.
It seems unnecessary.
It really does.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's this stuff. I feel like you might want that.
Yeah.
To, look over it with your eyes and say what it says.
Oh yeah, I'll look with my eyes and my face and
Yeah, just right on the page there. Anyways, so that was the very short chapter. Congratulations for you.
yeah.
That was chapter 18.
And 19:1 through 15 is going to describe judgment on Egypt.
Can't wait.
Yep.
Sorry, Egypt.
5 through 10 are a description of a disaster that has to do with the Nile. And so this is what we're going to see.
All right.
Yep.
An oracle concerning Egypt. Behold!
Oh,
Man, I am getting all the beholds
and
today.
right at the beginning.
Yeah, seriously, it's
Kinda
really
cool.
nice. I
Exhausting,
don't apologize for staying hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Behold, the Lord is riding on a swift cloud and comes to Egypt. So let's talk about Cloud Rider here for a
this
second.
comes from Canaanite poetry.
Yeah. Because so Baal was called the rider on the clouds, and that is also a common epithet for Yahweh.
Yep.
Yeah, rider on the clouds.
And of course, the prophet Jim Morrison referred to them as riders on the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. He's a prophet.
It's been confirmed. And the idols of Egypt will tremble at his presence.
The ungods of Egypt.
Same thing. The idols of Egypt will tremble at his presence. They can't do anything, but they can tremble. That's how terrifying God is in comparison.
Yeah.
And the heart of the Egyptians will melt within them. The heart of the Egyptians will melt within them.
There's context in the next verse.
Okay. And I will stir up Egyptians against Egyptians, and they will fight each other against another, and each against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. Good old civil war.
Yeah, this is sometimes interpreted as a clash between northern and southern kingdoms of Egypt. Others see a reference to the different districts of Egypt ruled by different princes. But one or the other, basically.
Yeah, but that's still so vague.
It is vague. The central idea, of course, is internal conflict and civil war.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing before there was the trembling of idols.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the heart of the Egyptians will melt within them. I mean, okay, so I get their the way they use heart, right? It could mean a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean like their thoughts, because that's where they understood, your feeling or just your feelings.
It could also mean literal social groups. There may be a central social hierarchy where there are disagreements among, I don't know, the cabinet members.
I don't know. Either way, some sort of civil strife.
Yep.
And the spirit of the Egyptians within them will be emptied out. Okay, that makes sense there with the melting from before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. And I will confound their counsel, and they will inquire of the idols and the sorcerers and the mediums and the necromancers.
That is not what it says.
They
shall seek out the ungods and the shades and the ghosts and the familiar spirits. And Alter comments on this is because Egypt was famous for its cult of the dead.
It was, yes. But
presumably any of these wizards who you go to would be calling up these
Sure.
shades and ghosts and familiar spirits anyway. So
Yeah.
it's not that different, but that is a weird translation difference.
It really is. I kind of wonder about what's in the manuscripts or what other translations
Let
say.
me
Even.
see. Eerdmans might have a comment on verse 3.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a very interesting translation. It goes from, the stuff that they were probably wanting to talk to, but they also have this translation.
This is a theme that comes in Deutero Isaiah 41:21 through 24.
Okay.
And it's basically just to show that their idols and magicians and magic has no power to predict or do what they want.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the Egyptians would have
Except
disagreed
those
with
snake
that.
staffs, they can definitely turn those snake staffs back into staffs and, and vice versa.
Well, this is another instance like in the earlier chapter where it seems like normally their magic and their divinations would work.
Yeah.
And now Yahweh is confounding their efforts to make them work, which gives, credence to the whole henotheism thing.
Yeah. And I will give over the Egyptians into the hand of a hard master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares the Lord God of hosts. So now we're looking for an evil pharaoh or an evil Egyptian king during this period. Are there any notes on this anywhere?
No.
Damn, that's a bummer.
It just points out that it's an aggressive way to refer to God. Alter says, the master, Lord of armies.
Well, yeah. And the waters of the sea will be dried up.
Biblical writers often look with envy on Egypt's abundant sources of irrigation from the Nile and elsewhere, which are a striking contrast to the land of Israel, dependent as it is on rainfall. This gives a special edge to the prophecy in the next verse.
Yeah, and the waters of the sea will be dried up, and the rivers will be dry and parched, and its canals will become foul, and the branches of Egypt's Nile will diminish and dry up. Reeds and rushes they will rot away. There will be bare places in the Nile, on the brink of the Nile, and all that is sown by the Nile will be parched, will be driven away, and will be no more. Wow, so it's going to be completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Not like, just like not the same kind of physical destruction as when an army comes in, but there's going to be a terrible drought, basically.
Yeah, all the fish will die too, and they'll smell real bad.
Returning again to the theme of Joseph, who predicted similar events.
Yeah, and Joseph, he was prepared.
Yeah, he was prepared.
Yeah. The fishermen will mourn and lament, all who cast a hook in the Nile, and they will languish. Who spread nets on the water. Maybe because there's barely any more water.
Barely any more water.
Or
the
fish.
Yeah, fish can't survive.
It's really a bad time to be a fisherman.
Yeah.
Or to rely on water. Really a bad time for that.
Yeah.
They should try something else. Either way. The workers in combed flax will be in despair, and the weavers of white cotton. Those who are the pillars of the land will be crushed, and all who work for pay will be grieved.
All who build dams will be downcast.
So not pillars?
And her foundations shall be crushed. All who build dams be downcast.
Okay.
Actually, here, Alter's sticking to jobs that would be affected directly by a drought. Dam workers, flax workers, carters, and weavers. So you have a drought, you don't grow the flax, you can't spin it in the thread, and so on. And, of course, the dam builders.
I mean, they're pretty... You don't really need a dam at that point.
Yeah.
Damn builders.
Either way. The princes of Zoan are utterly foolish. The wisest counselors of Pharaoh give stupid counsel. Stupid. stupid.
That's great. I like
It's not in there. I'm just ad-libbing.
Yeah. The wisest counselors give witless counsel. A verb appears to have dropped out in the Hebrew, or perhaps give is meant to be implied. Egypt was renowned for exercising wisdom, but here the wisdom fails.
Damn. Sucks. How can you say to Pharaoh, I am a son of the wise, a son of ancient kings? Where then are your wise men? Let them tell you that you might know what the Lord of hosts has purposed against Egypt. Purposed against Egypt.
Devised against Egypt.
Works the same way.
Yeah.
The princes of Zoan have become fools, and the princes of Memphis are deluded.
Noph.
Well,
The princes of Noph.
well, Memphis is still a place in Egypt.
In Tennessee.
Noph?
Also, yes. Both.
Yep.
Those who are the cornerstone of her tribes have made Egypt stagger. The Lord has mingled within her a spirit of confusion, and they will make Egypt stagger in all its deeds as a drunken man staggers in his vomit. Wow, that imagery though.
Yeah.
And there will be nothing for Egypt that head or tail, palm branch or reed may do.
So neither head nor tail, palm branch nor reed. These are two different idioms with the sense of through and through from top to bottom, one expression referring to the human body and the other to a plant.
Yeah, that makes sense. And all the stuff about Egypt staggering and the confusion that that God has created. Specifically, God made the confusion happen there.
Yes.
Of course, all things happen because of God. We literally have had that theology in here.
Yeah.
And in plenty of other works. So,
But these next verses that we're getting into are a group of 5 oracles, each
5
beginning
oracles.
with "in that day."
classic.
Classic, as you saw on our Friday Apocryphal podcast when we were reading Enoch. In those days, in that day. Yeah. And so on.
There's Fly here. Hello, Fly.
Yeah, he's been around.
Get the hell out of here.
My
Shoo
dad
fly.
said there
We
were
don't want
a
you.
bunch of them from somewhere.
Yeah, I noticed
Oof.
multiple flying around
I
here.
blame your cat.
I do too. He doesn't do anything about
Bet
it.
he pooped under a piece of furniture or something, and there's some flies growing in there.
Growing.
Oh, yeah.
Spontaneous generation.
No, they lay their maggots.
I know, but
And they grow.
they don't just spawn out of there, though.
They don't just spawn out of there, but they do
We just
grow.
didn't take the
in
trash
there.
out for a long time,
Okay.
and that happened.
Oof.
Either way, so here's some oracles,
Mhm.
and I also like how mentioning the confusion that the Lord has brought upon Egypt. It's kind of similar to hardening Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah, I was
I'd
going to
say.
bring that up before.
Mhm.
Yeah. In that day, the Egyptians will be like women and tremble with fear before the hand that the Lord of hosts shakes over them.
The raised hand that the Lord of armies raises against it.
Wow,
Ooh.
the context in which
Like
this,
woman
yes, the context in which this would have made sense.
is one under which someone is beating their wives.
Yep.
At
Wow.
multiple wives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the only way. That's the only world in which this makes sense.
Yeah.
So great. It's just off to a strong start there.
Oh, yeah.
And the land of Judah will become a terror to the Egyptians.
This bold statement of Judahite triumphalism reflects no known or ever likely historical reality. There you go. Right there. Isaiah has had an incorrect prophecy. He should have been put to death by the laws of the Torah.
Although, by the time that he was actually dead, like this stuff would have happened, quote unquote, after he was dead anyways. So that's how he got out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see, you
yeah.
only make prophecies about things that are long after you were going to be alive,
Exactly.
and you're cool.
Of course. But they also have this sins of the father go on to the children thing.
Yeah, that's classic.
So presumably, well, it's like an unfalsifiable thing. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, someday Judah will be a terror unto Egypt. Well, hell of a prophecy you got there. Like, are you just banking on Judah eventually becoming the biggest world power?
Yes.
And I invested all of those eggs in that one basket, and then they rolled the die. I lost them all.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Either way. Yeah, and the land of Judah will become a great terror to the Egyptians. Everyone to whom it is mentioned will fear because of the purpose that the Lord of hosts has purposed against them. Wow, so yeah, that's definitely a big claim there.
Yeah.
Then to another oracle. In that day, there will be 5 cities in the land of Egypt that speak the language of Canaan and swear allegiance to the Lord of hosts.
So
One
the
of these-
language of Canaan is probably Hebrew. The notion that the Egyptians will become worshipers of the God of Israel might have been encouraged by a time when there was a large and vigorous diaspora community in Egypt, which would have been the case at least as early as the 5th century BCE. Proposals to locate any of these prophecies as late as the 2nd century BCE are unconvincing. So
Yeah.
Alter holds the position that this is older portion.
Well, not as old as the... yeah, at least not as... It's older than the 2nd century is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
2nd century BCE.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have said any of it was from that point in time in the first place.
Right.
So that's very late.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of these cities will be called the City of Destruction.
The Masoretic text reads City of Destruction, Ir Herez. But some Hebrew manuscripts, as well as several ancient translations, read instead, more plausibly, Ir Herez, the City of the Sun, which is probably the Egyptian Heliopolis.
Makes sense.
The scribal error would have been caused by the fact that Herez is a rather rare synonym for sun, and by the context of destruction created in the previous prophecy.
Yeah. So that's actually interesting that it would be Heliopolis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge center. In that day, there will be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar to the Lord at its borders. It will be a sign and a witness to the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. And I think it's significant that there would be a pillar to the Lord at its borders because
Because you're supposed to inscribe the words on your houses and on your gates, and the borders of a nation are its gates.
well, you could say that, but also at the borders of Egypt, they literally had, border stones that were the markings. So if you set them up like next to those or something,
Or if you replace those with symbols of
or if you
Yahweh.
replaced them,
Just got rid of them.
yeah, then that would be, the theological takeover as well. Yeah. Either way, it will be a sign and a witness to the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. When they cry to the Lord because of oppressors, he will send them a savior and defender and deliver them. And the Lord will make himself known to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians will know the Lord in that day, and worship with sacrifice and offering, and they will make vows to the Lord and perform them. There's a lot to talk about there.
Yes, this is a utopian fantasy of Egyptians embracing the faith of Israel.
Yeah, but okay, the whole thing about, when they cry to the Lord because of oppressors, he will send them a savior and defender and delivers them.
Yeah, a deliverer and one who contests for them, and he shall save them. And the Lord shall become known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know the Lord on that day, and they shall worship with sacrifice and grain offering and make a vow to the Lord and fulfill it.
Okay, so they're going to send like a priest is going to come or something.
Yeah.
Some sort of high priest.
Some kind of representative of Yahweh, whether divine or mortal, is going to come in, save the Egyptians' asses, which is basically what happened with the the I keep referencing him, the guy who predicted the famine.
Joseph?
Yeah, Joseph. That's basically what happened with the Joseph story.
Yeah.
Is that a representative of Yahweh came in. He, despite being a prisoner, he gave useful prophecy from Yahweh delivered through dreams, and then they used it in order to prepare for a famine. Basically, exactly what is being described here.
Very similar.
I mean, it didn't have the result that Isaiah is talking about, where the Egyptians suddenly become Yahwists.
Yeah. Anyways. And the Lord will strike Egypt, striking and healing, and they will return to the Lord, and he will listen to their pleas for mercy and heal them. So kind.
Mm-hmm.
In that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and Assyria will come into Egypt, and Egypt into Assyria, and the Egyptians will worship with the Assyrians. So the whole thing about a highway being there, that's actually very accurate.
Yeah, the idea
They had a huge trade network.
Yeah, there's some detail in a footnote here. The idea of a royal road joining the two great warring empires that long threatened Israel, and the creation of a God-fearing triple partnership of Egypt, Assyria, and Israel to be a blessing to all the earth is the most extravagant utopian fantasy of all the prophecies in this chapter. It is by no means clear whether it is relatively early or late, although Assyria might not have been much of an issue for a later writer.
Yeah,
So-
and those like the actual fucking trade route was enormous. Like the thing is, not only within Assyria would it have been like it would have been important for Syria, right? But it also would have been important within Assyria because it got stuff from one half of the empire to the other.
But you also have to keep in, this is essentially signaling the creation of a new empire, right?
Or at least like some sort of United Nations type thing.
Something like that, where you have three distinct countries which now have a highway network and integral trade routes going through each of them, united under the banner of Yahweh.
Yeah, and the thing is, so Egypt and Assyria would have been pretty big threats for Israel at the time. But, when looking at it from, outside the scope of just Israel, there were plenty of other nations, plenty of other groups around that also had trade networks, but they weren't as, with Assyria, but they weren't as much of a problem. So they wouldn't even be the third one. They would just be another one. But from their perspective, from what they find important, they would be a third one.
Yeah, well, Eerdman says that 1923 through 25 look forward to the day when Israel will be a world power equal to Egypt and Assyria. But I think that's wrong.
Okay, I'll how about I finish this the actual two last verses here.
Yeah, go ahead.
In that day, Israel will be the third with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing in the midst of the earth, whom the Lord of hosts has blessed, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance. Although, let's point out the work of the hands part, because that's used so
my
much.
handiwork. Well, presumably the creations of God's hand are of a different caliber than the creations of the hands of humans.
Exactly, and we've had that a whole bunch. I just thought it was interesting that they chose that word there.
Okay, so there is still a separate and equal Israel to Egypt and Assyria, right?
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like this is like a mere equal status as world power. It sounds like very much like they are united under a theocratic, regime.
Well, I don't know if they'd be united. They would be distinct still, but some sort of teamwork. Yeah, I see that. I don't know. I mean, I could see it as just.
But you know how these things work. If all of them hold the same religion and they share borders and they have a highway network going through them, eventually, Like the culture is going to change in each of them.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
like, presumably. And this is what the Romans did. They started building roads and then they expanded their empire.
Cultures change.
Yeah. Well, that's everything that we were reading today.
Yeah, that's all of it. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe if you haven't, and because I'm a prophet, I know that you are going to like, subscribe, and share.
And because I am a prophet, I know that you're not going to.
We got this.
I'm covering all of our bases here.
Yeah,
And because I'm the best prophet, I think both are fine.
Yeah, some of you will and some of you won't.
That's right. I am the middle ground, the guy who went, that horrible person who went 1 cent higher than you and the price is right. I'm that guy.
Anyways.
No, we got the bases covered.
Yep. If you want to help support the show, we do have the $666 donation drive going on right now. We're $69 in. If you want to help us out in another way, we got all these books. These books that come, where do they come from, Lawrence?
You know where they come from? All these books come from the Amazon wish list. These are all commentaries and translations of, let's see what we got here. We have Deuteroziah, 2 commentaries here on Deuteroziah. We got some commentaries on Jubilees.
Yeah, what we're doing in the Friday show.
Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff, and all of that is on the Amazon wish list if you want to add to the table or add to our research for other videos we are doing. Then, yeah, go ahead to the Amazon wish list and consider getting us something. Invest in yourself, your own entertainment, your own knowledge. We read it, so you don't have to. So all that good stuff.
Yes.
What else are we going on? We got a Teespring.
Yeah, where you can get wacky and fun T-shirts. If you didn't win a T-shirt at the beginning of this episode,
Like Tyler did.
Like Tyler did
for being a $10 patron, you can get yourself a T-shirt anytime you want.
Yeah. We are not stopping you. We are not hindering you in any way.
No, you can do it whenever.
Yeah, let's see what else we got.
We also got the Patreon.
Our Patreon, yeah, like you said, you could win T-shirts, you can get books, all of our video scripts, you could be on our shows. We got a lot of stuff going on with the Patreon. So
for $1 a month, you can get our video scripts. For $5 a month, you can get Lawrence's book, any other books that we self-publish in the future. For $10 a month, you get entered into that T-shirt giveaway that we had.
Yeah.
For $20 a month,
you including credits too.
Yeah.
For the $10 one, yeah.
Yeah. And for $20 a month, you get onto our patron hangouts, which we host monthly.
Yeah.
And for $50 a month, you can be on one of our monthly show or one of our weekly shows once a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good deal for any of you.
Yeah, it is.
For paying us $50 is like having an hour to 2 hour long ad. Where else are you going to get that deal?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
On your exorbitant advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm enjoying the comments.
Oh yeah, aren't you?
Yeah.
And how?
But
let's see, what else we got? We also have Facebook and Twitter, and it's free to follow us on those. Also, damn fly.
You can't even see it.
Yeah, free to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Obviously, because those are free platforms.
Yeah, free to email us at
MilwaukeeAtheists@gmail.com. Yeah, although if you want to, it's up to you.
Yeah.
I don't really think we have anything else going on.
No, that's about all.
Yeah.
So until next time,
we will see you on Friday
and Sunday.
Yeah, and yeah, Chris, get a new thing. This sucks. This is very bad.
Go on Fiverr.